Hello, hi, good morning. This is Cairo from Ice Chat, Innovation, Sea Change, Entrepreneurship. So today we're going to have a special topic on Islamic finance in the era of great uncertainties. Check it out our intro. See you in 5 minutes.
After you get the go-ahead to start planning your project, the first thing you do is identify the work that has to be done. A work breakdown structure, or WBS, is the tool you use to divvy up project work into bite-sized pieces so you can plan, track, and manage your project effectively. Creating a WBS helps the project in several ways. First, it's easier to estimate the time and cost for smaller chunks of work. Second, it's easier to assign work to team members. Third, by breaking work into smaller pieces, you build checkpoints into your project that allows you to measure progress. A WBS contains two kinds of tasks: summary tasks and work packages. First, summary tasks are the higher-level tasks that summarize project work in some way. Summary tasks can describe each process of the project, including planning the event, preparing the materials, making the arrangements, and finally, holding the event. The number of levels of summary tasks depends on the size of the project. A few levels is probably enough for a small project. With a large or complex project, such as developing a new airplane, you could have many levels of summary tasks. Second, work packages are the lowest level tasks that spell out the details of the work that needs to be done. In our example, under preparing materials, work packages would include creating sales materials, creating presentations, and printing materials. The work breakdown structure is the key to planning out a project and managing it effectively. Now that we understand what a WBS is and how it's structured, let's look at how you build one. All right. Okay. Well, good morning. This is Cairo from Ice Chat, and with me this morning, a special guy, a CEO of PayHalal, a fintech, a very successful fintech in Malaysia, and with me is Mr. Jaafar Rihan. Give a big hand to Jaafar Rihan, please.
Hi,
All right. Hello. Hello. How are you? How are you,
good, good.
Jaafar?
Assalamualaikum,
Good.
Khairul, how are you?
Waalaikumsalam. I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad I'm able to reach you just in time. Oh my God.
Are you fasting today?
Ah, fasting, I am. That's why I have a lot of passion today. We have a lot of passion. Wow, yeah, you are in the nice red today, this morning. Nice red.
Going to have another meeting after this at 12, so I'm going.
Okay.
So, how are
Right.
you?
So good. I'm good. I'm good. Glad to have you this morning. Jafar, we are in the great uncertainties today. You know, the pandemic
Yeah.
COVID,
Yep.
now the economy, the situation, and I'm really glad that you can be part of this together, canvassing new ideas, new outlook, and also share with our audience, in the situation. So tell me how it's like, in your business, currently looking at the Islamic finance in this time. Can you share a little bit, Jafar?
Basically, Islamic finance is growing, especially in Malaysia. I
Mm.
think one aspect of Islamic finance right now that we are looking at is the fintech. That's part of my company is doing right now.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
because,
right.
yeah, later we elaborate between Islam and fintech, whether there is any differences or is there any prohibition and whatnot, which I will explain later. But at the overall, Islamic finance in Malaysia growing and globally is also growing. But now I
Mm.
think because of this COVID, every sectors are affected.
Yes.
Islam no exception. So everybody is affected. But I think with this COVID basically
Mm.
gives a new life to fintech.
Right.
Essentially, when people have social distancing, so this
Yeah.
fintech essentially gives the opportunity to people to deal in transactions. And for the Muslim especially, if they want to do Islamic transaction, Islamic finance transaction. This fintech provides the opportunity. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you maybe before we go there, Jafar? Can you maybe enlighten us a little bit? Who is PayHalal? What PayHalal is doing for the benefit of the audience, please? Yeah.
Yeah. PayHalal is a payment gateway. We are just like PayPal, Alipay, but we operate based on the Sharia principle. In essence, PayHalal, we process halal transaction payments, right? So, for
Mm.
example, for Muslims, it's important when they do transactions online, right? They
Mm.
they must make sure the transactions are halal. So, when they go to process the payment is going through PayHalal, they can be comforted by the fact that if the payment goes through via PayHalal, the transaction is halal. All right. So
Mm.
like
Mm.
Jakim in a digital space,
Mm.
Jakim talks about in physical space, whereby you is haram halal. But from the digital space, we want to operate like Jakim. We
Mm.
become way for halal in the digital space. So especially for the
Right.
Muslims, want to do transactions, digital transactions, whatever, they can be comforted by the fact that via PayHalal, their
Mm.
transaction Sharia compliant, right?
Right.
And
Right.
halal, what distinguishes us from the normal conventional payment gateway is that we have akad. Because in Islam, Sharia, akad or contract is very important because
Mm.
it preserves the right of each parties, both the
Mm.
merchants, all the parties involved. So we have what we
Right.
call the akad, and the digital
Mm.
akad really preserves, as I said, the rights and responsibilities of each party. And also,
Mm.
we have to make sure that in terms of the whole ecosystem of Islamic finance, payment
Mm.
is one of the important aspect. So
Yeah.
we basically memenuhi, cakap dalam bahasa Melayu, basically
Ah.
memenuhi aspect or fulfill an aspect of the ecosystem of Islamic finance, which is the payment, and
Right.
that's okay. All right.
Right. Right. So in terms of comparison, just for comparison, for the benefit of the audience, yeah. So in terms between conventional payment and what you call halal payment, right? So what's like just a simple difference for the layman to understand?
Well, basically, a normal payment is just a normal payment.
Mm.
But a Sharia compliant payment, as I said, especially for the Muslims, they want to make
Mm.
sure as that any payments that they do
Mm.
is halal. So, for example, you buy online, all right. When
Mm.
you buy online, how sure you are that the items that you purchase are halal, all right. So,
Mm.
if it's processed the pay halal, the payment, then it went through, then you can be assured, you can be comforted that actually the transaction is halal.
Mm, right. So does it mean, for example, like in the concept of halal, in other words, both party have an akad. You mentioned some of akad, right? So akad means I agree to sell, the other party I agree to buy, right? So in the context of e-commerce you mentioned just now, does it mean, let's say there is a breach of that akad? In other words, the product that delivered is not what is expected. So
Yes.
does this halal type payment will bear that kind of consequences, or just is that what you're saying?
We are the wakil, the what we call
Mm.
it, the rep. the wrap. So we have to make sure that the whole transaction goes through smoothly and there is no hiccup
Mm.
of the
Right.
so that's why, as I said, it's
Right.
important that each party's role in
Mm.
Islam, its role
Right.
must be specified, and our role is wakil or the rep in the whole representative. I think a representative for the whole transaction.
Right. So what does a representative like Wakil do in this transaction in digital payment solution, especially cross border?
Uh, Well, basically, as I said, to ensure that the whole payment went through smoothly,
Mm.
as ensure that, for example, you buy items and whatnot, right? The
Mm-mm.
items are halal. Because, for example, PayHalal, we are connected to Jakims in terms of the
Mm.
coding of the product, for example. So the halal product they have special code, right? So we are
Mm-mm.
connected have that coding to ensure that the products are halal. So if it's halal, then we will open the gate. So we open the payment side. All right.
Okay.
Payment is not processed. So that is important, especially as I said, we comfort to the Muslims that is the whole transaction is halal and Sharia compliant.
Right. Okay, I think that's interesting where you mentioned about this role called wakil, right? Wakil, in other words, the wakil is also responsible to ensure that all, not just the transaction is halal, but the product is halal, it meets guidelines, and the whole chain, including probably the ingredients, yeah?
The whole ecosystem.
The whole
Mm.
ecosystem. Wow, wow. I think this is just a different kind of role that you are playing, uh, you know, yeah. So okay, I mean we know that in the great uncertainties, right? Some situation where we go into situation where there's a lot of uncertainties in the economic system, in the product and services. So, what do you think the advantage of Islamic finance in this time of great uncertainties? How does it help?
Before I joined PayHalal, I was from ETF.
Mm.
And philosophy, one of the philosophy is invest in certainty in uncertain times. Okay,
Okay.
that
Can you repeat it again? Invest.
uncertainty in uncertain times
Wow. Okay. What does it mean actually?
basically means in when you're not in this kind of environment, then you
uh,
better stick to whatever that you know. But you better stick
right.
to what you think is safe,
Uh,
whatever that you think can protect you. So
uh,
essentially, that is what we call certainty in uncertain times. Because when you in some uncertain times, you can't take unnecessary risks. Yeah,
right.
because
Right.
you are speculators and so that is why from because I set up the Simpanan Syariah in EPF.
Right.
Simpanan
Right.
Syariah Pension Fund. It's the first in the world of
Right.
Syariah Pension Fund. So I think from that angle, we look at that philosophical standing. So from
Right.
Islamic perspective, for example, shares. For example, shares investment. Islamic
Mm.
shares typically are more certain. They, in terms of there's no fluctuations. For example,
Mm.
because one of the element of Islam or the objective of Sharia is there's no
Mm.
gambling. There's no gambling.
Mm.
So stocks in gambling. There's no stocks in gambling that is allowed in Sharia investments.
Right.
So this kind of certainty basically allows the investors to basically when you do involve finance, it provides that kind of certainty. So there is
Mm.
no fluctuation. There is no speculative in nature in terms of Islamic investments. All right.
Okay. So, in other words, what you're saying is, in these great times of uncertainties, nature like stability, things like predictable and less what you call fluctuation exposure, is something that Islamic finance can promise you. Is that what you're saying?
In
Yes.
fact, for example,
Mm.
the Islamic financing for for the individuals or the public,
Mm.
okay, the rates
Mm.
are fixed. So there are certainty. So in terms of the people when they pay their monthly, they know
Mm.
the rates
Mm.
are not
Right.
fixed.
Right. Right.
Like BLR, whatever, so it's fixed. So the rates are fixed. Okay.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think I could agree with that. In currently the Islamic finance, I use Islamic finance. I mean, I pay now lately because of the OPR, reduction. I pay less. I didn't pay more. Right, so that's a good thing. But okay, talking about that, Jafar. So we started MCO 2 months back, and then there was a thing called moratorium, right? And 2 weeks ago, before the Tengku Zafro, the MOF minister, say okay, it's all been settled down. Why there was a bit of issue of the higher purchase in the Islamic finance sector? Why was that? And can you maybe enlighten us a little bit?
I think one of the aspect is the charging of the accrued profit, or the accrued, because Islam, you don't have the interest, right? So we have the profit. Because as I said, in Islamic finance, the rates are fixed, and so the consumers, they know monthly how much they need to pay for a certain period of time. Now, when you extend 6 months, now then that affects the contract. Because as I say, in Islam, it's very important. Contract is very important between parties. So that affects the contract, because the contract is X amount that you have to pay for a certain X period of time. Now, extend it for 6 months, right? And now, so that basically affects the whole amount of the contract, because in Islamic finance, there is certain contracts like a BBA or ijara. All these are fixed in terms of nature, so that affects in terms of the contractual. But Bank Negara gives the assurance that all the Islamic finance, when they adjust the contract, there is no additional fees incurred by the members or by the consumers. I think that is assuring from the Bank Negara lah. Because I think they have to change the contract to reflect in terms of the changes in terms of the 6-month moratorium in that contract.
Right. So I think the question is more, one is to get clarification, because there is a nature of contract. I totally agree. I studied Islamic finance back in my MBA, so I understand that part. Yeah. So I think now I understand even more when you explain that to make sure that the contract is still guided by the Islamic principles. Yeah, because there's a buy and sell, and then both parties must be consented in that sense. And I think because of the nature of the situation we are in right now, that part has been somehow, I wouldn't say overlooked, but maybe has been taken as a blanket instead of a go-to due process. Like in APAC, there's a timeline that you need to give for both parties to agree with that, right? Okay, so talking about Islamic finance, right? I mean, Malaysia as an Islamic country believe in Islamic finance, and after, of course, the growing of Islamic finance now is by the billions on year-to-year basis. But the way the Middle East country, for example, they also practice Islamic finance, right? But I think there's some variation in terms of the interpretation of the Middle East and Malaysia Islamic finance. How do you see that different kind of interpretation will benefit Islamic finance in the digital world?
Okay, I think the differentiation between the Malaysian practice and the Middle East practices are mainly due to the fact of we call buy and dine or debt trading. Debt trading essentially, when you do this is especially in the capital market, when you issue bond, it's a debt based. So when you trade the bond, you basically in Malaysia we are trading that debt, and that is actually not allowed in the Middle East jurisdiction. But I think they are closing in terms of the interpretation, because right now, apart from debt based sukuk or bond, we also have ijara. We also have musyarakah. These are universally accepted structure of capital market. So I think the differentiation or the interpretation is getting narrower day by day, and I believe that I think the scholars also, via the Islamic Financial Service Board or IFSB, they try to minimize differentiation in terms of the Sharia interpretation for the Islamic. But more important, from the digital market, I think it's much more easier from the fintech perspective, because Islamic fintech is easy because we don't have brick and walls, right? So in terms of the flexibility in catering for the differences, if there is any, is much easier. Imagine like last time, remember Kuwait Finance or Rajhi Bank, when they open up here in Malaysia, they have some issues in Malaysia, because for example, contracts are not Sharia, like by Alaina they call it. But now Balaina is also being replaced by tawarruk, and that tawarruk is now globally acceptable. You see, so it's in banks, in Middle East banks, they accept the concept of tawarruk. So that's why I'm saying now, I think the differentiation of Sharia interpretation between Malaysia and Middle East, I think now has been narrowing via the introduction of new contracts and new products, which are universally acceptable by all the Muslim countries.
Okay, that's really heartening to go to know that, because this is where digital world contributing into a lot more. I wouldn't say standardization, but more of a unique way of making sure the transaction can happen. Because digital world, as we know, it is about cross border, and we don't want to be a situation where we only trade within ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, as we know that Islamic finance also believe in creation of you must have asset to create credits, right? Is that right? Right thinking?
Oh yeah, in Islamic
Yeah.
finance, depending on the structure of the contract, you need certain asset financing and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does for you personally, how do you view, and in the situation now where the asset is getting more expensive to acquire, it's getting depleting resources. How does the creation of credit happening in Islamic finance from your view?
But I think the same structure that we can use to create credit in Islamic finance existingly. For example, when you buy a house, for example, they are so that is the contract that they entered. That which I think most important thing, the asset must be existence, and these are the certain conditions that imposed by the Sharia scholars. But in terms of the creation of the credit, from perspective, there won't be any issue in Islamic finance, because as I said, with certain contracts that renders the requirement of assets to be not so important. For example, I say just now tawaruk. Tawaruk is heavily used contract now in Islamic finance, and in that tawaruk structure, all right, they can use an independent asset provided by party to provide financing, right? So
Right.
like now, independent third party that provides this these assets, like is one of the big party that provides this asset for the purpose of tawaruk is Bursa Malaysia. So they provide Suk Al Sila, commodity house. So the assets for banks or Islamic finance to provide financing or creating the credits. But more important right now, I think that this is also an opportunity right now. And in terms of difficulty, I think because this tawaru is like basically that structure, whereby you have to
Right.
pay certain X amount for a certain amount of period and whatnot. All right. But now this difficulty time is giving opportunity for Islamic finance to look into other structures that is also helping people to share the burden of the people, because Islamic finance is rich with a lot of structures. One of them is musyarakah, profit sharing, right? Musyarakah, all this sharing structure, which I think this is the time for Islamic finance to look or to venture into, so that in terms of shouldering the burden between banks and the public, it can be be together between the banks. So, for example, if the people gets more income, then the bank will also get more income. Vice versa. This is actually the time Islamic finance to venture into this type of structure. Of course, risk is there, and but we have to look it in a way that the risk is mitigated via a proper assessment. So I'm sure you cannot this financing to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but you must look at the track record of the person, or if it doesn't have track record, any kind of a business model which is viable, these kind of things. I know it's easier than done, but but I said this gives us the opportunity for Islamic finance to look into this structure. And also like to take this opportunity also to for Islamic finance to look into products, Islamic finance products that not just look in terms of return from the commercial aspect, but also from the social aspect. Okay, I this is something that I'd like to share with you that I want to push. I would call it social security products. Okay, what is a social security product? Social security products, what do you call it? Financial products that have normal returns, right? Like like profit, rental, whatever. But at the same time, that also have social security returns. So, for example, like example, they can invest in what I call it a social bond or social sukuk, whereby the social sukuk, the whole idea of the social sukuk, get the proceeds. What do you do with the proceeds? Most important for social infrastructure projects like social housing,
Right.
like you know, social like food, something that
Right.
basically protects life. I mean, this is actually in Islam, the objective of Sharia or maqasid Sharia. One of the most important thing is the protection of life. So how do you protect life? You protect life by doing investment in this investment in sectors that gives the protection, like housing, food, medical, for example. These are the social investments that I'm talking about. So at the end of the day, the decisions to give financing is not just purely on return, but also how it impacts the society. Gives also a weighting measure or criteria for any investors to give funding. So that basically social security products lah. Especially like EPF, for example, they can give invest in products that basically provide social homes for their members, or what do you call it, insurance for the retirees. These are some of the products that I think we can look at, especially to help the people. So not just in terms of financial, but more important the social well-being of the people.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting topic that you brought up, Jaafar. I think there's a concept called social finance recently, whereby it's not just about, but now they're focusing more on the student debt, not yet on the asset yet, but the asset underlying is still a student debt. In other words, the student, they believe if their debt has been taken care of in a way that their jobs are taken off, they are more happier, they are more, I mean, this is a social help that I think this is an interesting concept. I like that you brought that topic. So what hinders the social return products, in your opinion, in current situation?
Well, I think one of the reasons is awareness lah. I think people, the investors or financiers, orang kata apa, comforted with the existing product. They are very comfortable with the product. So when new things comes, they tend to, is it feasible? Can it be done? Recently, I think one of the corporates, if I can name them, bank, the corporate Axiata, they issued what they call a sustainable sukuk, whereby payment of the sukuk is based on certain objectives or sustainability objective. Once they reach the objectives, the return payment they need to pay will be lower. These are some social things that I think we are proposing, rather than just purely on commercial. So I think what you call awareness is important, and I think innovativeness among the players. Everybody needs to come in. The scholars needs to come in. The financiers needs to come in. They have to come and sit together and come up with a product that basically not just meet with the shareholders' requirement, but more important is the people well. I think that will make the differentiation between conventional and Islamic products.
Right.
In Islam is about balance. Balance between material, spiritual needs, balance between the needs of individual and the needs of the many. So this is what I'm talking about, the needs of the many, which is important that we look at how we can fulfill the needs of the many, not sacrifice the needs of the individual, but try to balance these two needs.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept that you brought up. I think it's quite refreshing, because I think now people could see, from what you said, the differences between Islamic finance and the conventional finance, right? It used to be, I remember a decade ago, people say Islamic finance, what is it? Or just add the I at the end, is still going to be the same product. I remember.
I face same dilemma as well.
Yeah. I remember when I did my own MBA, in one of my minor is in Islamic finance. I went to my lecturer. He's a scholar. So I asked him, how do you interpret this certain we read this certain book, and he said, I told the lecturer, no, this is not how banking is practicing. No, of course he was shocked, knowing that. Right. But again, I think this is a good conversation, especially in the great uncertainties right now. We need a new kind of measures. We need a lot of people, like you said, the need of the many of them are affected. Yeah, and this is where Islamic finance can provide new kind of approach, a way out. May not be opening a floodgate, but rather a way out to help certain group of people.
Correct,
Right,
correct,
right,
correct.
right.
And
Okay.
that's why this fintech can make it much easier, because those who are not bankable now can be bankable via the fintech mode. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
adds also there.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, okay. Talking about the bankable, right, from your own opinion, how can Islamic finance help the underbanked situation?
Well, basically the underbanked situation, I think because Islamic finance, they are subjected to rules and regulations of the regulators. I think that is the
Mm,
dilemma there. They're trying to balance that in terms of meeting the requirements and make sure that depositors' funds are protected versus trying to expand their business horizon into what you call the unknown. No, not the unknown, but
yeah.
more towards the helping the people, the social, as I said, the social part lah. But
Right.
I think terms of balancing, that is something that we need to uh, give the Islamic finance some doubt. I mean, at the end of the day, they are trying their best in doing that.
Mm,
But more
mm,
important also, I think discussion needs to be done with every parties, all the stakeholders,
mm,
the regulators, the finance people, the banks and whatnot, to look
mm.
at how we can mold the banking, Islamic finance especially, to meet with the social justice or social requirement needs of the people rather than purely monetary.
Yeah.
I think that is important.
Mm. Right. So in the situation right now, Jafar, it seems that I mean, from a decade or 2 decades ago, the Islamic finance still like playing catch up. Particularly in the central bank kind of approach, looking at the
Yeah.
conventional and Islamic finance. Right. How can we make that leap? Because the social justice that you mentioned just now, or rather social help, which is a flexibility that Islamic finance has, in this situation. How can we make that leap into where the Islamic finance can either, if not beyond the conventional, but rather at the equal level of the conventional kind of finance?
I think we have to look at different modes rather than just purely banks. No,
Mm,
because banks, at the end of the day, they are subjected to rules and regulations. Understandable, because
mm,
they're taking people's money, deposits.
mm,
But as I said, now with fintech, now we have peer to peer, P2P, this kind of new way of structuring, new way of
mm,
raising funds. I think that kind of new structuring ways of funding, raising funds and whatnot. I think then that gives us the opportunity to leapfrog whatever, to this kind of
mm.
social. But if just
Right,
based in normal banking, traditional banking, it's
right,
very difficult. But I think with the evolutions of the way how money is being accumulated, funded, and then how it's being distributed, because via this fintech, I think
right.
that gives the opportunity for us to differentiate and to leapfrog in terms of not just monetary but also social security aspect. So I think that as I said, the fintech or digital finance essentially gives the opportunity for the Islamic finance to grow, to evolve, to its more of its ideal objective in first place.
Mm. Okay, now I think I get where you're coming from. In other words, the traditional banking to change is really hard, right? So digital finance, just like PayHalal, is, I wouldn't say bypass, but rather provide a new opportunities into reaching the customers at mass. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, and because especially customer now with the smartphone, even though they're underbanked, but they use smartphone,
Yeah.
because it's a lifestyle. They have access to internet and they can access credit. They can access, maybe they can have even like a digital credit score instead of just from the bank. Is that what you're saying just now?
Yes, what I'm trying to say is basically that
Mm.
those are non-bankable, like Machikia,
Mm,
Kakia,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Now via fintech, they can have credit score. They can have the ability to show the track record that how much they sell the goreng pisang every
Mm,
day.
mm,
From via the fintech. Now probably how much is the revenue that she got from goreng
mm,
pisang.
mm.
That right, you can get uh, and then
Right. Okay, I think I'm losing you a little bit over there. I'm losing you a little bit. All right. Okay. All right.
Uh,
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you well.
Okay, good. All right. So, okay, in terms of I like the example that you mentioned about Machikia. Instead of relying on the bank, which for the bank maybe what she can offer is very limited. So, using online IF credit score, she can have access to a lot of facility via the digital solutions. Right. Okay. Talking about Islamic finance talents, right? Um, I mean, there are not many around. Even there are many of them are scholars. Scholars, what they do, they interpret the Sharia ruling and for the banking purpose. How can we develop more people like you? Not just scholars. You understand scholars. You in business. You create products. It's a
Uh,
compliment. Yeah. How
uh,
can we have more of that from your own experience, Jaafar? Share with us.
from my experience, I studied from International Islamic University.
Mm.
That provides me the foundation of Islamic finance. But then I ventured to central bank, work Bank Negara, right? I work for that, work Bank Islam. That gives me the experience. So blending together the what do you call it, the theoretical and the practical, that gives me the we call it the knowledge in terms of how we can move forward and develop products, and especially I'm actually a product guy. I like to develop
Mm.
products. Yeah, now
All
in Bank
right.
Negara, I develop Islamic products and ETF, come out Islamic ETF. So I'm the product developer. But more important right now is that I think Malaysia, I'm not sure about other countries, but I think other countries as well, especially the Muslim countries. Now, I mean, they are trying to integrate the Islamic finance with the normal academic studies offerings. And also in Malaysia, we have dedicated institutions like ITFIM that provides the training for Islamic finance. Yeah, and we have in Malaysia, for that matter, ISRA, International Sharia Research Agency, that basically specializes on research on Islamic finance, how we can develop new product infrastructure in Islamic finance that helps to achieve the objective of Sharia or Maqasid Sharia. So I think
Mm.
there are a lot of initiatives, kudos to the Bank Negara especially and the Securities Commission. I mean, trying to come up with ways to improve the talent of the people,
Mm.
especially on Islamic finance. I mean, even local universities now is offering a lot of subjects on Islamic finance. Now,
Mm.
people question whether or not we want to offer this kind of to primary school, secondary school. I'm not sure about that, but I think they're
Mm.
working with that as well. But basically, to integrate the knowledge with the normal conventional knowledge, Islamic finance
Mm.
knowledge with the conventional knowledge as well. But more important, I think that nothing beats with practical. If you know something but you don't practice something, it's something that then you're not able to get the reality, the real picture what's happening. I think by now
Mm.
Sharia scholars, yeah,
Sorry.
that question.
Yeah.
I heard uh,
Yeah. Sharia scholars.
you
Yeah.
have to,
How can they advance themselves to be more business a product guy like you, not just interpreting the Sharia interpretation, but rather to come up with new product, push a certain business agenda as well. How can that happen?
I think, for example, right now they're introducing like board members, must be Sharia board member, especially in Islamic
Mm.
finance. There are Sharia
Mm.
scholars in the board members, so that at least they are involved in day-to-day transaction of business decisions, and then
Mm.
from their knowledge they can integrate with the normal decision making for
Mm.
the Islamic finance. But
Mm.
as I say, universities, academic colleges now are offering a lot of Islamic finance and Islamic banking courses to
Mm.
the people.
Mm.
So but I think talent development is something serious. I think especially the Bank Negara and SCs, the regulators are really pushing. But sometimes I
Mm.
notice that in Malaysia, it's more of top down rather
Mm.
than
Mm.
bottom up. So it's like
Yeah.
everything is about regulators, everything about Bank Negara, Securities Commission. But sometimes
Yeah.
I think the industry themselves need also to be proactive in terms of coming up with products and developing talents rather than just purely from top-down approach.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. I think many of the initiative right now is very much a top-down kind of approach. How could we make it a bit more balanced other than just a top-down approach? How can we can have a more bottom-up kind of approach to balance that out? In your opinion, what could be done?
Well, I think. any culture lah. This is his culture because since we have been ingrained in that kind of environment, is everything must be wait from Benegara, what Benegara say, we have to follow. So
Yeah.
that kind of culture. But I think now with the millennium, I think there is different. I think I believe the new generation, the fintech generation, the millennium generation, they are more thinkers. They like to think independent and whatnot. So I think the pushing up from bottom up, I think is coming up. I think. But I think regulators also now is giving the more flexibility, for the
From
institutions
Islamic
to
finance.
develop rather than just purely from asking them to do X, Y, Z. They are also giving some flexibility as well.
Right, right. I
Okay.
think there's some incentive as well, right, in the RF to develop talent. For example, there are
Yeah.
certain scholarship to go into this area, right? Okay,
Correct.
good. Right. So in terms of talking about talent again, there are a number of talents that we need to develop. So what would be something critical, rather very useful? What kind of talent do we need in the Islamic finance environment?
I think one of the important talent is product development talent.
Mm.
The product development talent is not just purely looking at how to develop product that generates maximum profit. But as I said
Yeah.
just now, it's a
Right.
product balances the need of the individual and the needs of the many. So I think that is the challenge of innovating products that kind of that balances between the needs and also the important the spiritual and the material aspect. I think these are the aspects that product development side we need to look at. Sway away from the normal conventional capitalism kind of way of thinking towards product that gives harmony for everyone, harmony for not just individual but also the society. So I think that what, as I said just now, one of the products that we can be looking at is social security products that we can develop. I think product development is one thing.
Right. Okay,
I
that's
think in terms
great.
of technology is given. I mean
Mm.
technology, there's neutral about it. There's nothing
Mm.
Islamic or un-Islamic about technology. But more
Mm.
important is how you can harness that technology to
Mm.
benefit people. That is important. That is the know-how, the skill that you need to develop.
Mm. Mm. Like for yourself, Jafar. I mean, what made you become interested in the product development? What excites you actually, instead of
Oh,
becoming
what
a
is
scholar? Mm.
because I like something new. I like to develop. I like something new
Right.
because to me, because when I was entrusted to develop Islamic finance in Negara, one of the aspects is the money market side.
Mm.
There is actually one product in the market. We call it the
Mm.
Mudarabah interbank, and then the governor says, you need to develop products. You need to develop global bond. You need to develop what do you call it, government bond. So
Mm.
that
Mm.
actually spur me, say that, okay,
Mm.
I need to come out with structure that Sharia compliant, how we can do that. But that is
Mm.
just purely from the regulatory perspective. But when I go up from Negara, I join EPF. Now in fintech area, I'm looking into more of how we can develop products that meeting with the needs of the many rather than just the need of
Mm.
the few.
Wow. Okay, I think PayHalal is very lucky to have a product developer. Join them as a
Yeah,
CEO. Now, I mean, this is great. I totally agree with you that new products will create a new market, or rather, a new market. We need to create a new product to serve them, right? I think in the great time of uncertainty now, there is a new market. There's a new segment, probably having to go through certain pain point, and people like you guys to create product around them to solve that problem. After all, the products are supposed to solve a problem of the customers. Right.
correct.
Okay, Jafar. So for
Mm.
the concept of Sharia is global, but there's differences around the world. How can digital solution can be scalable in this kind of situation?
What situation you mean?
Yeah, because the concept of Sharia is global, but
Yes.
there's some differences. No, in the Europe will be different, in the Middle East is different, in the Malaysia, ASEAN, even Indonesia is different. How can the digital solution make it scalable so that we can grow them larger and larger?
I think, as I said just now, digital solutions, they are flexible. They are very
Mm.
flexible. As I say,
Mm.
because we open up business in digital. For example, like we are looking PayHalal, we are looking into Indonesia, we are looking to Middle East.
Mm.
But the requirement there is not as so difficult compared to opening up a bank in other countries, because we are not, as I said, there's no brick and mortar and whatnot, but it's more flexible. So I think, and also it's in terms of catering the needs of the local requirement is also much more flexible, because we can adjust easily whatever is required in the locality of the way the place that we are operating. So it's easier, it's much more. So I say the word is flexibility. It's easier for us to adjust accordingly. So I think this fintech, it gives us the leeway for us to adjust according to the needs of the respective locality. But I think, for
I
example,
see.
Asian market, Brunei, I think not much, because we are the same. But when you go to Middle East, maybe there are certain aspects that there are differences, which we can adjust accordingly to the system, whatever, to adjust to accommodate the requirements of the Middle East, for example, or in Africa, the way they adjust they certain things and what. I think more important, but when we want to correct, that is something that important, that we come up with infrastructure that is actually acceptable, so that it runs payment and everything. But I think at the end of
Right.
the day, payment is no in terms of between countries. But more important is as I said, as I just now mentioned about the certain parts of the products. That is the thing that the bit. But now, as I said, now with the introduction of new structures and whatnot, the differences is getting minimized between good. So now, as I said, Suku is a global, international, not just Malaysia, it's Middle East, and so I think it's not much an issue. But I
Right.
think the fintech gives the additional flexibility in terms of adjusting according to the differences of the
Right. Okay, so one way
alright.
to develop talent, Jafar, is to convince
Mm.
the conventional guys go to Islamic finance. Right, that's another way to develop talent, because I mean
Yeah.
they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of exposures, they created great products before, but times have changed. The new social environment have changed. In the great time of uncertainties, the customer have changed. There's a new problem happening, and
Yeah.
this is where IF or banking or payment or something finance can come up with something unique. So what would be your advice or rather suggestions to someone who is without IF background but wanted to join the sector?
Okay. Most importantly, you must have the foundation, the philosophical foundation.
Mm.
Correctly, that a lot of conventional, they join, then they convert the
Mm.
plans, and then they convert, they come out a product. But unfortunately, the product doesn't have the ruh, I call it, don't have the spirit of Islam. It just has technicality, it means the legality. But in terms of the spirit, in terms of or the ruh, I call it, the spirit of Islam. So I think important right now is to have the foundation. Why is there Islam finance? Okay. Most important thing is what's the philosophical foundation of Islamic finance, which there is just there to make money, or is it there also to help people? These are the philosophical foundation that you must have first. Then after that, you will go to develop products and whatnot according to the ways that meets the conventional ways. But as long as it meets the Sharia requirement, important. But I think the foundation is very important. You must have that foundation. I think in order for us to go, we're going to start with normal products, but the spirit, you must have the ruh, you must have the spirit that is actually in compliance with the Sharia objective or maqasid Sharia.
Right, all right. I think that's a very interesting concept that you brought up, where the product must have raw, must have spirit and soul. In other words, there is the element of the social,
Yes,
the element of social justice.
yes,
I think must outweigh
yes,
the right. I think it could be seen, right. And after all, we're dealing with human being that needed help. And who wants to go to the bank? I mean, without need of help. I mean, we go to the bank for help. We go to the what we call finance for help, right? So I think that part needs to be larger, than become rather than just the profit side, right? I think I get the point. So I like what, just to wrap up a bit what you said. The product in IF not just converting the conventional product into Islamic just to meet the Sharia checklist, but you also must have a
realistic.
soul. yeah, into it, right? So okay, I think we are already 11:46. Just a final words from you, Jaafar, to everyone out there who interested in Islamic finance.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks, bro, for this opportunity for us to have this broadcast. For me
Mm,
to air my little bit knowledge about Islamic finance to
right,
share with you and your audience.
right.
But more important thing, as I said, Islamic finance here to stay.
Mm,
But more important, let's have Islamic finance here to stay to give impact to the people.
right,
Yes, here to stay. To me, I
right.
just want to add give impact, a
Mm,
beneficial impact to the people. So
right,
then I think the differentiation with conventional Islamic finance can be seen easily.
right.
Otherwise, people say that dah sama aja, same conventional Islamic same. But I think that's something that we need to adjust. That we need to emphasize that
Mm,
we are here to stay to give the positive impact to the society, to the people at
mm,
large. Yeah,
right, right.
that's my.
Okay, so I think PayHalal also now offer gateway to pay zakat fitrah, right?
Yes, yes. Zakat,
Yeah.
fitrah, but at the moment only in certain parts like wilayah persekutuan. We are
Mm,
expanding to other states as well. But you know lah, they want the challenge lah. We have to go to the respective majlis agama of the respective states. Yeah.
right. So PayHalal is now available for zakat fitrah in wilayah persekutuan. So do check out PayHalal to make way your zakat fitrah. Don't need to go to the army and shake hand if you're in the pandemic situation. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you very
much,
much. Thank you
Jaafar Rihan, CEO
well.
of PayHalal APAC. See you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Bye bye. All right, so that is again, ladies and gentlemen, that is Jaafar Rihan from PayHalal digital solution, the first Sharia compliant digital solution in the world, right? So PayHalal. So very interesting topic. We talk about Islamic finance. Jaafar Rihan, one of the what you call a pioneer and also thought leader in Islamic finance. Islamic finance is not just about converting the conventional product into Islamic product. It is more than that. No, he talked about having a role, having a soul, having a spirit, where the social justice is also been taken care of in the Islamic finance customers, right? And he also talked about digital is being more flexible, being more flexible in good in uncertainties right now because we use mobile. So in other words, by mobile, you can even Machikia can get credit. She can share her sales numbers to get credit score. She can get a small loan for her business to roll. She can even make payments to other vendors and other clients. She can also accept payment just by credit using QR code and stuff like that, right? So I think it's a good time, like mentioned it by Jaafar, it's a good time for all stakeholders to come forward. I can understand it very well because I studied Islamic finance about a decade ago with my MBA. I can really understand how sometimes the Sharia interpretation can go a little bit of haywire because it's interpretation. Yeah, interpretation it involves experience, a little bit of facts, a bit of understanding about the customers. The good thing is IF can also provide a new structure instead of banks. So this is where I think a unique selling point. What Jaafar is saying, IF probably should start looking at the other area other than just the via banking because products not just about banking. Yeah, I remember one quote from Bill Gates about talking about bank. People probably needs banking, but not necessarily from the banks. Yeah, so those are quite an important statement. So I also know that number of locals, I mean banking in Malaysia is also creating a lot of new products in terms of payment and cross-border payment to stimulate and inject back the economy. Certainly, I look forward for more innovative product like Jaafar said from Pay Halal, more with the social justice element, more with raw and helping these new kind of customers. As someone involved in innovation, I'm excited about the word innovation mentioned here just now because in the great time of uncertainties, a new customer is created. Yeah? Although the customer probably may not be from the richest, they are very, very poor, but they still need a lot of banking. They still need to do payment. They still need to do the economic activities. So how big is this group? As you can see in Malaysia right now, there are billions being dished out for the unemployment, not unemployment, sorry, for the Bantuan Sarhido. And these could be people that definitely need a new kind of products in banking, right? And like in the US situation, you could see the claim of unemployment benefits also on the rise. So with that, there is a new element I'm sure happening around the world right now, a new elements of new product that IF can provide for this kind of people. So with that, thank you so much for joining our Ice Chat show today. My name is Khairul. Innovation, change, and entrepreneurship. This is going to drive our economy. See you again tomorrow. And tomorrow I have a special someone. Let me just bring up that someone now. Let me see. Tomorrow we're going to discuss about confinement business. Confinement, it is a new kind of business in Malaysia right now, and we have a pioneer in this area. Her name is Kazam. Kazam is a pioneer and from Pantang Plus. Yes, let me just bring it up. Kazam here, you could see, Kazam Confinement Services from business perspective at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Ice Chat, and I see you tomorrow again. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stay safe. Have a good fasting day. Bye bye.